What is up, everyone? We are back. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I've got a new laptop, got everything set up last night, so hopefully everything goes smoothly today. I got a new setup here, so if anything's off, just let me know in the chat. We are live Saturday. We're in February now. We got Gav back on the show after he had golf outing last Saturday. Had to leave us to hit it in the trees for a couple hours. Gav, welcome back, man. How are you?
Yeah, I actually survived the golf tournament. It was about 42 degrees when we started playing at 8 a.m. So I was drinking Red Bull vodkas on the course all day and got second in the queue in the 222. So it couldn't have been all that bad with what you and Mike did on the intro. But yeah, we got an interesting slate here. It's not quite the play absolutely anybody slates that we had kind of a couple Saturdays ago, early January, late December, but still a very good 4 to 5K range, a couple good studs. So a lot of different ways to go, I think, in this one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We just had some huge news before lock, and we're going to start with that game today, Gav. The biggest one, perhaps in the sport, I think. Pretty frustrating that they keep putting these huge SEC games right at noon Eastern, but it is what it is. We'll start off with that game. We got Florida at Tennessee. Florida 4th at KenPom. Tennessee 6th at KenPom. Tennessee's, I don't know, -4-ish. I'm sure that's updated since I wrote this down 10 minutes ago, and a 142 total here, Gav. The big news, Zakai Ziegler out for Tennessee. How do you think that impacts this game, and what do you think about this game overall?
Yeah, well, first, kind of before the Zakai, right? This is probably the most nationally obvious spot, on the entire slate today, with Tennessee losing 2 in a row. They were embarrassed against Florida in the first time in Gainesville. No, you're not catching anybody off guard, thinking you're getting a Tennessee spot. But yeah, the Zakai news is brutal because in the first matchup, Florida completely shut off Lanier on his pin downs, on his open catch and shoot stuff. So he's going to have to play a monster role with the Florida scouting, kind of him out of the game. Jordan Gainey will move onto the ball for Tennessee, which is not optimal. I don't think Jordan Gainey is very good personally, but he could have a decent spot here. It was setting up to be maybe the best offensive backcourt versus the best defensive backcourt in the country. But now missing Zakai. Tennessee still has a couple paths, though. Florida 288th in defensive open three rate. So Tennessee is going to get their opportunities. It just comes down to, are they going to hit the threes? Milicic is sub 30% on the year. Lanier cooled off, but, he's shooting below his kind of season-long mark. So
Ziegler hadn't hit a three in 2 weeks.
It was two of his last 26% from three for Zakai. So maybe that even almost helps him. But yeah, the Florida 2 big lines, they can struggle a little bit with Tennessee's flex action stuff away from the ball, given their lack of switchability. So that's really their path. If they're not hitting threes, I think this is an uphill battle. I took some Florida +5 kind of at the onset of the Zakai news. Just don't see how they're really going to have any advantages now in this spot. Having that on-ball pressure to slow down the three-headed monster of Florida was going to be crucial. And now without that, Jordan Gainey is not a power conference defender. Maybe he is on the offensive end to some extent, but he's a pretty brutal defender. And he's got his hands full now with Walsh Clayton and Elijah Martin.
Yeah, I grabbed the 5-2. I actually grabbed a little bit of the over too, Gavin, without CZ in there. Just more pass to the Florida guards doing well, and that's the key, I think, for them to win anyways. We did it last week. I'm going to share our current projections on the screen here. It might be a little small. Obviously, we haven't updated the Tennessee projections with the news here, so take this one with a grain of salt. We're going to see both Gainey and Meshack play a ton of minutes here and are going to be good plays in the 4K range. Like you said during the intro, it's a really strong 4K range and low 5K range on the slate, Gav. The decisions in those ranges are where this slate's going to be won. And I think that both Gainey and Meshack immediately get put near the top of that list in that range. Why don't you talk about DFS real quick? Those guys stand out. We saw during the week both Lanier and Milicic get get priced down into the 6K range. They're still in the 6K range here in the pace up spot. But I will say I've gotten in trouble this year chasing Florida's pace because the defense has been so good, especially on the interior. I feel like I keep trying to make forwards work against Florida, and it just hasn't in conference play.
Yeah, that's kind of the difference with Florida this year. I mean, they're top 15 defense. They have, huge bodied guards. Elijah Martin is a grown individual. Walter Clayton's a pretty good sized body, out there for a guy who's playing a lot of the 1 and the 2. And then, the double big lineup. I mean, it's not an easy defense to play against, but, regardless, Gainey at home, under 5K. I would have said that Meshack was probably more, your floor option, but Gainey's going to have some upside. Like, there's like an outside shot that Gainey scores 17 plus points in this spot. So, obviously mainline viable, primary budget option with the news, and then kind of go from there in the game. It also makes the Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin matchups much easier. Like Martin's a really interesting GPP play, I think, in this spot. 8.4K is a price that he can definitely do, especially if, he's pouring it in the scoring column. So, you look at Martin Clayton in addition to, Lanier is going to be kind of mainline viable now without Zakai, but does worry me that Florida completely shut him off. Didn't even give him really many opportunities to shoot. Wasn't like he just missed a ton of shots, so to speak. I think that's really where you start in the game.
Yeah, and this, I believe, is the early showdown as well. So definitely going to have to get those minutes right for the guards on this one. All right, let's go to the next game here. We've got 3 games in that early window gap. So, we kind of ease in to the slate a bit with only 3 games in the first lock. Pitt is at Wake today. Pitt 33rd at Ken Palm. Wake 75th. Wake laying 2.5-ish here. 138.5 total. What do you got for us here?
Yeah, Wake, after we saw them last Saturday have, the great game against Duke. They went on the gnarly second half run, came up a little bit short, and then, got smacked around by Louisville a little bit. Part of that is, Wake. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Pitt was off a fortunate North Carolina win where they trailed most of the game and were able to edge it out at the very end. But Pitt's just been so bad on the road. 362nd away from home, 0-4 ATS in conference play by nearly 10 points per game on average. We have the 2 highest defensive 3-point rates in the conference in this game. So this could be bombs away. I think this is a good 3-point prop game to look at if you're kind of into that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But teams are like very similar-ish in the backcourt. It's multiple big-bodied 2-way guards who can win off the bounce, solo or within the scope of an offense. But Wake has a much bigger advantage inside. Majeski's talked about how Spillers is playing more of a roaming role on defense, where he's just leaving basically the worst shooter and just kind of playing rover, almost like Cooper Flagg does in a way. Right. And it's really helped that defense. They were already good before. Pitt's a top 50 ISO frequency team, kind of like I alluded to. Wake's the second best point per possession isolation defense. They have legit individual defenders at all 5 spots, as long as Parker Friedrichsen isn't in the game. So yeah, I think teams look pretty similar in the backcourt, with Wake having a substantial advantage in the front court. Pitt's been getting roasted by bigs. Like Eddie Lampkin had 8 billion rebounds against them just the other game. So we're just ridiculous. So yeah, I think this is a great Wake spot. We didn't do great on Wake early, just when the team started out slow, but I feel like we've had a pretty good pull. I've had a pretty good pulse on them. Avoided the Louisville with their defensive 3-point rate, cover the Duke, now covering Pitt. I really like this spot. I took some Wake here.
Yeah, I did not avoid the Louisville game, which is why I was a bit more gun shy, but I did take Wake here. Posted that in Discord for our members last night. DFS wise, Gav, Pitt and Wake both run pretty tight rotations. I think a big spot here is on the Pitt side, like what they do with that. Basically, I guess you can call it like a 3-4 spot between Damian Dunn and Guillermo Diaz-Graham. They've kind of gone back and forth. I was talking with Mike about it last week on the show. It feels matchup dependent. They used Diaz, Graham, Moore against Clemson with their two bigs. They used Dunmore last game against Louisville. So, or no, sorry, but
North Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. So it kind of feels matchup dependent. Diaz, Graham, I think he might start here against the two bigs of Wake, but there is some guesswork there. The minutes, I think, are pretty fluid between the two, but both of them are cheap. What do you think there? And then anything else that you like here DFS wise?
Yeah, Diaz Graham's like matchup on the inside isn't great, but Wake is a deep drop coverage team, and Diaz Graham is a stretch five, so he has that ability. It is some projection, like you were saying, having to get him seen to get 24 plus minutes, in the spot. But God, even at like 18 to 20, it's going to be pretty hard to kill you at 3.8. Mm-hmm. Now, the pace of this game probably is going to be great. You got two decent defenses here. He's on the road. So, yeah, I would say you can mix him into the GPP pool. It's probably a little bit tougher for a main line unless you just absolutely love the rest of it, and he's kind of your last man in at 3.8. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at him in the spot.
Yeah, it's just tough, right? Because if you play him and you get it wrong, I think there's a lot of opportunity costs in this range. Like you're going to have to get good scores from your cheap guys today, Gav. So I'm not inclined to take that risk on my main, but he definitely has upside at that price, especially if he starts. We've seen him and Dunn kind of yo-yo back and forth depending on. I'm pretty sure it's a matchup thing. I just don't have a lot of confidence before we see the starters. Anything else here? Hunter Salas is cheap. I think he's probably the next best play in this game. Salas under 8K, playing a ton of minutes. We might actually be light on his minutes at 35. We do have Bilio's back for Wake. He's probably just going to play a couple minutes, but that does eat into just the ridiculous minutes ceiling that the starters have. Any thoughts on Salas or anyone else?
Yeah, I kind of initially looked at if Efton's going to play 37 minutes a game, he's too cheap at 5.7. We try to make him a thing very frequently early in the year. Mm-hmm. It didn't work just because having Spillers down there this year ate away at his rebounding share, ate away at his shot share, on putbacks and stuff like that. So that being said, if he's going to stay out of fouls and he's going to play, 35 plus minutes, then, he's squarely in play. Tyler gets a price down too. If he would have made a shot against Louisville, he really could have done well on the slate. He's, priced down another 800 or to the point where I think he's in play. He's got a pretty tough matchup in front of him with Jalen Lowe and Ish Leggett, defensively, but 5.4. I mean, you can play worse than 5.4 Tyler on this slate. I kind of look towards those two first. Salas is in play, but is he better than kind of the other studs in that range? Maybe. I think it's more of a GPP option for me, but yeah, definitely in the pool as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. We're going to talk about a lot of guys in the 4 or 5K range. I think Reed and Tyler Johnson are awesome tournament plays here. You just have to be it's hard to do minutes for a guy like Efton Reed because he does foul so often. So we have 31 here. If he doesn't foul, that could be low, obviously. So he does have minutes upside. If you put him at 35 minutes here, he's going to be on every lineup. So it's just kind of tough. Any last words here before we move on?
Nope.
All right, let's go to Providence at the Johnnies. 87th on KenPom for Providence, 14th at KenPom for St. John's. St. John's laying 2 touchdowns here, Gav. 141.5 total. Actually, one of the higher on the slate. I don't think we have anything that's touched 150 on the slate. So pretty narrow band of totals on the slate besides the Clemson NC State game that we'll get to later. News here, Wesley Cardette for Providence is still out. We haven't heard anything. Providence is notoriously super tight-lipped with injury stuff, so we probably won't know until those guys start to warm up. On the Johnny side, Davon Smith expected to be back today. Not entirely sure what to do with his minutes and role. We've seen him kind of have a false start or two, Gav, trying to come back. I've got him at 24 minutes here. The more I think about it, the more I think that might be high just because Not sure if they need him in this spot and like if they need to push him. So we might be coming down on his minutes there, but if he starts, I think he's in play. What do you think about this game overall, though?
Yeah, dude, the Johnnies are, they're on fire. The 7 straight wins. They've won 13 of 14 games since Atlantis. If you think all the way back, I mean, just absolutely rolling. Providence off 2 straight wins. They beat Georgetown and Seton Hall. Okay. The first game at Providence, I mean, Providence led 15 in the first, Providence led by 15 with a minute left in the first half. And Johnny's ended up sweating it out and winning by a couple. So Johnny shot 3 of 18 from 3 in that game and 11 of 26 from the free throw line.
I feel like 11, they do that every game.
11. Do you know how bad 11 of 26 is? I could literally go out on a court right now and shoot better than 11-26. I'll put $10,000 on it. Like that is mind-blowingly bad. But yeah, it doesn't really kind of bode well for Providence. Top 100 ISO rate against one of the best ISO defenses with individual defenders in the country. St. John's defense is up to top 5 overall on Ken Palm. So yeah, this is probably St. John's by suffocation here.
Yep. DFS wise, we have a couple plays. I mentioned Davon Smith. I think he's going to be a really good tournament play. Just tough to know. Like he could play 14 minutes here and totally bury you. We'll probably come down on his minutes as we get closer to lock. The Providence side, we've seen the minutes condense at the top, especially for the guards with Pierre, Joseph, and Floyd. So, those guys are playing a ton. I think Pierre's at least interesting. Gav at 5'2". I think he's going to get played a ton here just because of the minutes certainty. I'm a bit scared of his upside on a big slate where we do have good values. So any thoughts on Pierre there and any other plays here? I tried to make Ryan Mila work last weekend, apparently dealing with an illness. That front court has quickly gotten pretty crowded, because we have Asandiko's back, Rich Barron is back, and he wants to play those guys. So like the days of Mila and Oswin playing 32 minutes, I think are gone. I think I'm going to lean on the conservative side here and say that all these guys are going to get mixed in.
Yeah, I mean, the Providence front court is like a horse stable. It's full, but it's literally full of a ton of shit. Like, none of those guys are very good. And I'm not really wanting to play them against St. John's. Like, yeah, I think Kim English is more susceptible to just kind of throwing out his usual rotation and playing kind of whoever he feels like it, hot hand, so to speak.
Yeah.
Jaden Pierre, I usually like Pierre against like a Seton Hall, a no middle defense, where he's going to get his 3-point opportunities. There's going to be driving kick opportunities for his assists. I mean, Johnny shot 3-point line and they shut off assist rates at a pretty elite level. So this matchup is brutal. This is one where, yeah, he is too cheap, price wise, but man, if he's going to get played in this matchup on the road, I mean, like Providence literally could score 55 here today, like easily.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of the highest owned guys on the slate.
I kind of hope he is. 6 of 9 and 7 of 12 from the field his last 2 games. Seton Hall and Georgetown are still decent defenses, but he still only got to 25 and 23 DK. So it wasn't like he completely buried you.
He's a guy that I'm not really that terrified of fading because, like, if he has an awesome game, he gets like 28 here, and I think that a lot of the times he gets like 18. So not really concerned about fading him. We have a question: is Abdur Rahim in play? I think he's too thin for this slate. Honestly, I think the value is too good, and there are a couple plays. Like I would rather play Diaz Graham over him straight up. At least there's minutes upside for that. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go to that 1 p.m. window. It starts with Mizzou at Mississippi State. I know you have a bet on this one, Gav. Mizzou 30th at Ken Palm, Mississippi State 25th. Miss State lands 6.5-ish here. Total up near 150. So I believe that's the highest we have on the slate, either that or the Auburn game. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, I put a little tweet on it. The run that Mississippi State has been on, not in terms of like, good or bad performances, but just the string of teams they've had to play over the last, month. insane. Like at Auburn is a physical game. You have the OT rivalry game against Ole Miss at home. Then you go have another slugfest at Tennessee. You eke it out against South Carolina in kind of a sleepy letdown spot, with the Bama game on deck. And then you have just the mega get up effort against Bama, and they just torch you from three. And, although you were in the game, if Bama's going to shoot 40% from three, I don't know anybody in the country is going to beat them. So, like, how much more in the tank do they have really at this spot where we could see them come out a little flat? I mean, the market's just going to keep buying on them as long as they keep losing and they think they are getting buy lows. But I kind of punch back against the market. I mean, Missouri's had a full week of rest off. 2 teams in the SEC get, a full week off every week, and this was Missouri's week. So
yeah, that
bodes really well. Since Caleb Grill started playing, 27 plus minutes per game, Missouri's a top 20 offense on Torvik, and Grill, Bates, and Pierce, against a no middle, all guys who can stretch it well. I mean, they got options here. They can put some good pressure on Josh Hubbard individually. They can run some zone stuff that Mississippi State hasn't quite unpacked very well on the offensive end so far this year. So yeah, Mississippi State, number 1 2-point percentage in conference play is kind of the antidote, to a lot of the Missouri zone looks that they can just bludgeon them inside. And they're not going to foul you a ton for the free throw hunting Missouri team. So I just thought 6 was a little bit too much. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri won this game outright, honestly, which means that Mississippi State will probably win by 20. So take that for what it will. But yeah, I thought this is a pretty good Missouri spot personally.
Yeah, I like getting the week off. They've dealt with some injuries, and I think they're fully healthy here going on the road. I definitely wouldn't lay the 6.5, 7 with Mississippi State. They just don't seem like a team that is going to routinely blow teams out. I think that they're just going to keep playing in these close games just because of the style they have. I mean, Josh Hubbard scored 40 points and they lost the game.
He scored $1 billion.
And he got banged up in that game too. I'm not sure if he's 100% here. I'm definitely not chasing that performance. I actually had him on on that slate. I believe it was a night slate on Tuesday or Wednesday. So a bit smaller here, but he does get the $1,000 price increase in this spot. So off of him here, you can see the projections agree. Do you have any DFS interest in this game? It's kind of tough for me to get to either of these teams. We've seen Cam Matthews be pretty popular on nearly every slate. It's just, man, like, it's tough for me to get to him. Like, I fell into the trap once because he projected so well. And just, if you play him, just know that you're probably like, it's within the range of outcomes that you're paying $7K for a guy who takes 1 or 2 shots, which is kind of tough to stomach. Like, he just has to get there on steals and peripherals. So any interest in him? And then any of the guys down low, we got Perkins and Riley Kugel with good projections here.
Hubbard's not going to be owning the spot, really? His projection, I thought he would have popped in projections just after that spot.
No, because he's all scoring. Dude, he scored 38 points with
45 DK
or something like that. Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna. That's what I was gonna bring up. Is just like, yeah, if he doesn't score, you're probably stone dead. But he could score 30. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough side to be on, just with kind of what else we got on the slate. I think, like, if you wanted to play a Claudell Harris or a Trent Pierce, like as a GPP mix in, Harris fouled last game in the first half. So I don't know if that probably cut his minutes down a little bit, but I mean, he was playing, 30 plus in close games for the most part before that. So I don't hate them, to mix in. Kugel probably get some ownership. He was popular. Last game played 25, had 5 stocks and still barely made value. So yeah,
I'm not falling over myself to jam Kugel into a main lineup.
Yeah, in a good 4K range slate. So yeah,
I actually prefer Perkins. I think, his minutes ticking up has me intrigued, right? Because, like, he has the rates where if he pops a 28-minute game as a starter, I think he's going to be a really good tournament play. So I think Perkins is my favorite DFS play in this game. I think Tamar Bates is interesting. We've got him at 28 minutes. I think him and Robinson are interesting if you fall in that, low to mid 6K range too. Any last thoughts here?
Yeah, just I think general bump to the 3-point guys, right? Grill, Robinson, Pierce. That's not really Perkins. He's more of kind of this. I think the slasher in the kind of similar to what Robinson gives him. But terrible Mitchell spot. Keyshawn Murphy just a little too expensive for the price. Melendez rolled his ankle and looked like they were going to amputate his foot in the locker room. And then he came back out and played. So I don't know if he's 100%. I'd probably veer away. There's a chance he doesn't get to 20 minutes again just with the ankle health. Other than that, I don't think anything else to add.
Yeah, pretty frustrating that they don't start Keyshawn Murphy and they just trot Nwoko out there every game. Murphy jumps off the page if you watch Mississippi State play. All right, let's go to Creighton at Villanova. Big game in the Big East here. Creighton 32nd at Ken Palm. Villanova 54th. Nova laying 2-ish. 143.5 total here, Gav. It is finally that day again. We got Eric Dixon 3-point day. Why don't you take this one?
Yeah, Eric Dixon has shot 100,000 3-pointers against Creighton in his career because Creighton implores one of the deepest drop coverages in the country. When Calc doesn't want to chase him all the way out to the 3-point line. Just with Dixon having like a top 15 percent shot mark this year means that we weren't going to sneak up on him with a 1.5. So we had to play the 2.5, and
I still like
it. I think we've won it every single time. Other than one game, he went 1 of 9 from 3 2 years ago against Creighton. So yeah, we're going to bet it again. Rematch of it was like a pillar to post. Creighton just kept Nova at arm's distance in Omaha. Creighton was never really in trouble. Villanova was never really out of the game, but Nova's lost 4 of their last 5 coming back home. So decent spot. They're the number 1 Big East 3-point percent offense. And with Creighton's deep drop coverage, you're able to glue onto shooters much better than other defenses. So Creighton allows one of the lowest catch and shoot 3-point rates in the country, which doesn't bode well for Nova. But, Nova also themselves gives up a ton of threes, which any given game you give up a lot of threes to Stephen Ashworth, it could get a little ugly. So, yeah, lack of length and athleticism really here for both teams. Should be an efficiency over, even if it's not the most fast-paced game environment.
Yeah, interesting game for DFS. We've got studs on both sides. Jemiah Neal was way more owned than I thought he was going to be on that slate earlier in the week. We had him as like a sneaky tournament play, and he was 40% owned.
Yeah.
Almost chased me down in the qualifier. I was about to send Alex Caravan a big bag of shit on his front porch for going 1 of 12 if I had blown that. But I think he's going to be popular again. I think he's a good play again here. Gav, do you like Neal again? And then we saw Wooga Poplar have a very odd week. He got tossed in that one game and then came off the bench last game, kind of a coach's decision. I kind of tend to think that he's back to full minutes here. I was pretty aggressive with his minutes. I think he's an interesting contrarian play at 7K. He's been great in conference, and if he's going to bump right back into the full role, this is a cheap tag for him. We saw him almost get to 9K a couple weeks ago.
If he had a 19-point double-double against Creighton in Omaha last time. So, I personally haven't played Wooga really much at all this year, and maybe that's wrong, but yeah, you want to mix him in for like a GPP, sure. Jemiah Neal is in the pool to compare with someone like a Salas, right? Are you going to play Salas over Neal? I think I probably lean towards a Salas in that, just with game environment and situation. But yeah, all of Calc, Dixon, and Ashworth, all are going to be, I would call them contrarian GPP options. I don't imagine any of these guys being, super highly owned, especially with Broom on the slate. So, there's a couple spots to pick off, but this is not like a game stack spot. I will mention like McAndrew and Trout. Okay. Like the stretch fours, it is an interesting spot for them just with how many threes Villanova gives up. Trout's been playing actually some pretty safe minutes. His minutes seem to be safer.
Missed a shot in 3 weeks. Look at pull up his game logs.
Yeah, it helps. But like I think both of those guys, if you want to play into that, can be pretty sneaky. Yeah. Where these guys actually have some ceiling to match some of the other 4K budget guys. Even though they have much lower floors, they're higher risk, but the path is definitely there for both of them.
Yeah, it's about time that they, Jason Green and Mason Miller get less minutes, and guys like McAndrew and Trout get more. Hopefully that continues to happen.
We'll see Mason Miller at like Grand Canyon next year. Watch.
Yeah. Any love for the studs up top? Kalkbrenner 10-2, Dixon 9-8, Ashworth 9K.
Probably I'd prefer Ashworth. Like, my thing with Dixon, like just on the larger slates, like if he's not going to double and he's not going to score 30, then you're really going to have an uphill path, especially at 9.8. If he was like 8.8, I think it'd be a little bit different discussion, but yeah, Calc's been shooting more. If he's going to get 5 blocks or 17 shots a game, he's probably going to get to 40 DK. Tough in this spot, given a jump shot heavy Villanova team for both of those. So yeah, I would say GPP mix-ins for me, no priority plays.
The tough thing, right, is you're clicking him over Broom.
I'm not. That's the thing.
Yep. So tough for us to get to those guys in the slate. All right, last game in the 1 p.m. Eastern window is Arizona at Arizona State. Big news spot here, Gav. Arizona 15th at Ken Palm. Arizona State 56. Zona laying 6.5, 7, 148 total here. We saw it during the week. Arizona State dealing with just cluster injuries right now. BJ Freeman, Quaintance both missed their last game. We've seen Jihad miss some time. I expect everyone back here, and that's how I'm playing it. What do you think of the game overall, though?
Yeah, I think this game really comes down to how does Arizona enter this game? Do they kind of get a little fat and happy off the ISU just miracle cover and come into this game a little bit lackluster, give up easy shots? They aren't making their shots. I tend not to think so. If this wasn't a rivalry game, and they were going like if they were traveling to UCF or to TCU, something like this,
I was going to say Utah, and then I was like, "Fuck."
where there could be kind of easy letdown. I think I would have more worry, but you're playing at in Tempe. Yeah, the injuries. I basically bet Arizona early, thinking if either Freeman or Quaintance is hurt, then I'm probably
the other way. Yeah.
Like Quaintance especially. I think they can survive without BJ Freeman. I don't think they can survive without Quaintance. When Arizona is a top 20 team nationally in near proximity rate, they're just going to hunt the rim. And if Quaintance isn't there, and it's like Bashir Jihad, a Ball State power forward trying to stop Arizona at the rim, I just think that's a disaster waiting to happen. So ASU is going to be a bunch, a lot of ISO heavy, low rim frequency versus a more athletic, deeper backcourt wing group of Zona. And just with, I don't know what DK's deal is with Arizona pricing, but definitely going to have to look at some options in this game for the 14th slate in a row with Arizona.
Yeah, right. Well, they just got even cheaper. So we got a huge team total for Arizona here. And, they've pretty much ironed out their rotation now. Like there isn't as much guesswork with the rotation as we have with some other teams here. So we've got a lot of guys who are underpriced for Arizona, KJ Lewis and Awaka at 5K, just guys with good rates where, Awaka, if he doesn't foul, his role has been increasing. He's a guy that we were high on coming into the season. Over 1 fantasy point per minute for him. So I really like both those guys. I think you can play 2+ Arizona on a main lineup, Gav. We have a huge projection on Carter Bryant. He's basically forced them to play him more with how good he's been off the bench. And then Vasar too, like him at 18 minutes is still popping at his price tag. So I think getting Arizona right is going to be important here. I'm probably playing 2 to 3 on my main. And then on the Arizona State side, if everyone's back, that squeezes minutes a bit. But I think Sannon is still in play here. We don't have a great projection on him because he hasn't really hit a shot since coming back from injury, but he's played good minutes, and he's a guy that they want to give minutes to. He was a high recruit, so I think he's really interesting, probably as a more contrarian piece in that low 4K range. How do you unpack this DFS wise?
Yeah, I think Sannon's a really good play here.
Yeah.
The thing about him is he was kind of billed. He's a reclass too. Is what's crazy about it. He was kind of billed as like a tough shot maker, and like when he was going on his heater prior to the injury, it was just kind of one game after another pouring it in. When you take time off as a guy like that, can you regain that form? Like if he does, I mean, yeah, he could easily score 18 to 20 real in the spot. Much less DK. So
yeah, I think he's a sick play.
I really like Sannon in this spot personally. The Arizona guys, you're playing at least one, probably two, and you're definitely running it back with an ASU guy. So this is like a minimum 2 in this game, I think, for almost all lineups. Just too many cheap guys.
I don't think you have to bring it back with an Arizona State guy. I think you can. Because of the price.
I think the only way you don't is if both guys play and are said to be healthier than they sure look. Like BJ Freeman only made it a couple minutes and never returned. So
yeah, I mean, the way we have it now is that everyone's playing. So I think if everyone plays, you don't need to bring back. If one of these guys are out, I think you probably do. Do you have a favorite on the Arizona side? Like if you had to pick one at their prices?
It's hard to parse through which ones are clearly better than the others. Like, it's probably like KJ Awaka and Carter Bryant on that tier. Like Carter Bryant's still too cheap, but I wouldn't expect the 27 minutes he got against Iowa State. Like he was ideally suited as a pretty effective and efficient stretch 4 against that Iowa State no middle at home. So it's set up well for him.
So good.
They got to play him. It just opens up the lanes for those other downhill guys like Jaden Bradley, like KJ Lewis, and Caleb Love when he's not being a total rag for 39 minutes and 58 seconds. So
I can't believe I didn't cover that game.
It's ridiculous.
That Iowa State loss, probably the worst of the year.
I just lost on Georgetown yesterday when Finley Beesjack took a meaningless layup up 5. Oh, right. So there was that
on the under. Yeah. We have a question about Delorso in the chat. He doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies here. His upside isn't great. Like the reason we were playing him, Gav, is because he was seeing 30 minutes there and like he felt safe. But I don't know. I think they're going to go with more Bryant moving forward, honestly.
Yeah, I think like Delorso's he's getting thin. Like he gives you minimal to no peripheral upside. So if he doesn't hit 2 threes in this, you're really fighting uphill, especially like we said on a really strong budget slate where guys in the 4K range are gonna get 25 to 30 DK in spots probably.
Yep. All right. Any last words here before we move on? We got a bunch of games left.
Nope.
All right. Let's go to the 130 window. We got one game in this window. Back to the ACC.
That's a shit bag of a game.
Clemson at NC State. Clemson 29th at Ken Palm. NC State 96. DK's got a Clemson minus 5.5. 133 is the lowest total in the slate. Gav, I thought about taking some Clemson here if it hits 4.5, 5. Any thoughts on this game overall?
Yeah, it's a great buy low spot for NC State. I mean, they've lost 5 straight. Clemson's won 5 straight. But in NC State's 5 losses, their worst loss was 10 points at Cameron. They've had 2 like within 2 possessions. I mean, they've been playing close, even if it hasn't looked like it on the bottom line. In the win-loss column. Clemson's best win, like the only Q2 win they've had in the last 5 was at Pitt, and Pitt has not been great. Let's just say. So it's not like they're bulletproof. What does work in their favor is that NC State top 50 in transition point per possession, but bottom 40th nationally in half court. So this is a team that needs to get out and run. They want to turn you over via their press and get live ball turnovers. Clemson, second lowest defensive transition rate nationally. So they just cut it off. That really does not bode well for NC State. NC State does not have the Turk Smiths, the Jarkel Joiners that can just kind of dribble. Clemson's going to underscreen them in ball screen actions a bunch, which is going to allow free off the dribble threes. But NC State's just a shit shooting team, so it's not like I feel great about that spot. But I could see why people bet NC State here, just given spot. Other than that, yeah, game note wise, I don't think I have a ton more. But unfortunately, there's a play that we're probably going to have to look at here for main lineups, and Jaden Taylor. Like he's just $1,000 too cheap, even with the bad game environment.
This kind of goes to what we talk about offline pretty often when we're trying to make decisions on guys in the same range. It's like, all right, so we're on the show next Saturday. Which of these guys is $1,000 more? And that's Jaden Taylor. I think easily we could be on this show. NC State's playing. I haven't even looked who they're playing. They're at Virginia Tech, and he's 5,800, not 4,800. I think he's one of the better plays on the slate. I was even conservative with his minutes. He could see 33, 34 minutes here. We have 30 as a median. So I think he's pretty tough to get away from on a main lineup.
Yeah. The reason for fading him is if you find better ceiling with other guys, and we might be able to parse through that. But yeah, I mean, he's probably the main guy I'm looking at. Like, what about mixing in some Dylan Hunter? Came back, played 18 minutes, started against Virginia Tech. Man, he was playing like 27 to 32 minutes for a good stretch. I don't know. He's a really interesting mix in GPP. Just a bad game environment. If it was better, I could be more confident in it. But other than that, yeah, this is kind of a tough spot DFS wise.
Yeah, I think my interest is in Taylor. I think BHH is at least interesting in tournaments just because he's so cheap and he's got that low 20 minutes roll again. And he doesn't need 30 plus to do well. I'm definitely BHH over Dylan Hunter. I'm not a big believer in Hunter. And yeah, I don't think there's much else here. I think Lock-in is interesting. We've seen his minutes really fluctuate. So, we've got him for 26 here. We've seen him play low 30s. And Gavin, we haven't really talked about that many plays above 6K, So I think Lock-in's at least interesting for tournaments despite the bad game environment. Any last thoughts there?
Nope.
All right, let's go to the 2 p.m. window. We got 3 games here to close us out, about 15, 20 minutes left in the show, so that works out. We got Auburn at Ole Miss here. Auburn, second at KenPom. Ole Miss, 22nd at KenPom. Auburn laying 5.5. I think it actually went to 6 on DK right before we went live. And a 149.5 total when I wrote it down. Thoughts on this game? Pretty sure we're both on Auburn here. We saw Broome return last Saturday. That was awesome to see him play so many minutes. What a great game that was, even though it was low scoring. And then backed it up by playing 33 on whatever that slate was, Tuesday or Wednesday. So in these games where Auburn's not laying like 20, it's just hard to get away from Broome, I think.
Yeah, Auburn probably should be laying 20 in this game with what they're going to do at the rim against Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss was in like the ultimate buy low spot against Texas in the middle of the week and barely scraped by a mediocre Texas team at home. This Ole Miss team worries me. They're the number 1 SEC defense. Their opponents are also shooting below 27% from 3 in conference. Like that's going to correct itself. Is this a spot for Auburn to do it on the road? Maybe not the greatest spot, but I mean, they got multiple guys that can obviously shoot it from Kelly to Pettiford to Jones. So, this to me feels like Auburn, who is the best 2-way team at the rim in the country against an Ole Miss team who's really inept at the rim. Auburn's just going to get a much lower level of difficulty shot on the average possession. And, Ole Miss is going to be guard driven against the long backcourt and wing length of the Baker Mazars or the Denver Joneses of the world. So for me personally, Auburn, I think this is Auburn by double digits. Like, I don't know if the only way Ole Miss stays in this game is just insane shot making, and nobody has even had 10 3-pointers against Auburn all year. So feel pretty good in this spot.
Yeah, for DFS, I want you to talk about the matchups for the Ole Miss guys because their guards are cheap, specifically Murray and Dre Davis, who we both have projecting really well. I'm interested in both of them at home. I think they're good plays, and they're seeing around 30 minutes. But do you have specific matchup concerns with either of those guys?
Davis a little.
Auburn's a good defense,
Yeah, Auburn's a good defense. It's not as frenetic, turn you over intense as it was last year, or like when you think of like Auburn with KD Johnson, and trapping and pressing a bunch. It's a little bit more bend don't break because they have, the length to defend it. So the matchup for Dre Davis is not great, but he is at least 1,000, if not more, underpriced. So yeah, he's a great play. God damn, 5K. I mean, Auburn's going to give you good pace. Mississippi's going to get nothing inside. The issue I have with Mississippi are the size of Juju Murray and Padula against.
I was going to bring up Murray, yeah.
just against a much bigger Auburn backcourt. The price is pretty insane on Juju Murray. I mean, this guy was like high 7Ks, low 8Ks last year before Padula came in. Now the role is a little bit different, obviously, than last year with Padula, but man, he feels like a great cash play. Like you could easily play Murray and Davis together in cash and get, probably 60 plus minutes from them. Both are mainline viable. Yeah, this is not really where I like to play a Padula, where he's going to be at just a massive athleticism delta against bigger body guys. Now he's good, but he can always do it. 8.3 in the context of this slate, though, probably out in that spot.
Yeah, we saw Murray cede that starting spot. I believe it was to Barnes for a couple games, but he has it back now. So he has upside for 33, 35 minutes here. The only thing that concerns me, obviously, is how small he is. He's like 5'10". Any Baker Mazzarella or Brakefield, has a better role now. I think Brakefield's going to be pretty popular on this slate. Not really a guy that I usually get to. I think I'm going to play the guards. And then Baker Mazzar, we have a big projection on because he has added an important piece to his game for DFS, Gavin, and that's doing something besides scoring.
Oh, that was passing me. Yeah, I mean, it's over 7K. It was one thing when he was kind of like mid high sixes kind of earlier on in the season, but now he's floated between, almost like 7 and 8K. Yeah, sure. Probably not for me. I get it, mixing them in. For me, like if I was MMEing, I would just be mixing in this low to mid 5K range. I think Miles Kelly's a great play. I think Tahad Pettiford is a really good GPP play, even though he's really, going into the teeth of the Ole Miss defense in terms of their guard play. I don't know what's the status on Morrell. I thought it was probable, not questionable, but
yeah, we haven't projected for nearly a full roll. We have 26 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's like, yeah, you usually don't like freshmen on the road against a backcourt like Ole Miss, but dude, his first 3 games that he really played were like Houston, Iowa State, and I can't remember someone else. It was like 3 of the gnarliest defenses, and he torched them. So, yeah, I think this is where you really pepper it, is just the low 5K range. Try to get that combo right. That's really the strength of this game, plus Broom.
Yeah, I am in the same boat. I think I might IKB the Baker Mazzar projection as being too high, but I do think that he's good in tournaments or game stacks, just because, like we said, he's added the peripherals and stocks, which just adds to his upside if he's going to be playing 32-ish, 33 minutes a game. So, any last words here?
Nope.
All right, let's go to Wisconsin at Northwestern. It's our first Big Ten game of the slate. I think it might be. Wisconsin 17th at Ken Palm, Northwestern 51st at Ken Palm. Wisconsin laying 1.5, 2-ish on DK, 142.5 total here. What do you like in this game?
Whew. God, I mean, Northwestern played at home against a Dylan Harper-less Rutgers, and looked like the guy Demir Hadzovic on bottom just getting wailed on by Terrence McKinney, elbow after elbow. Like that's what Ace Bailey's game against Northwestern. Go watch some of the shots he made. It was one of the most ridiculous shot making displays I've ever seen in college basketball.
It was so good.
It was bananas. So kind of technically buy low-ish spot, for Northwestern just off that. Wisco's laying 3 on Ken Palm. I think it's definitely inside that. Spread-wise, like Northwestern's really desperate. I mean, if they want to have any, chance of making the tournament, you screwed yourself with the Rutgers loss. Now you're probably going to have to win this game. So if you want to price quote unquote desperation into anything, sure. This Wisconsin offense just has a mega advantage off the bounce against Northwestern. Like, if you had trouble with Ace Bailey, you're going to have trouble with guys like Tanji and Blackwell. Although not similar players, not similar size, they're still going to win, off the bounce, getting downhill towards the basket. And Northwestern is dead last in the Big Ten in defensive free throw rate. So one of these guys, Tanji or Blackwell, is going to get double-digit free throws. I thought it was interesting to note in conference play, teams are really going under Barnheiser on everything. They're just forcing him to shoot threes. He's under 27% on the year, 20% in Big Ten play at higher volume than his season-long rate. So there's been definitely a concerted effort to that, and it has slowed him down a little bit. But yeah, overall, okay game, 140, I think 140 total. Winnick's on this over. I kind of thought that was interesting. I could possibly get there. I could see it, but
yeah,
a couple DFS spots, not any great ones though.
Yeah, I can't bet it here. I would be on the Wisconsin side. Sorry, I was distracted by that fight.
Yeah.
I hope you played a bunch of McKinney today. I almost locked him. I would be on the Wisconsin side if I could bet this. Just not a huge believer in Northwestern long term. Wisconsin coming off the loss at College Park. I think this is a good Wisconsin spot, honestly. DFS wise, we have more guys in that 4K range. Nicholson playing really good minutes lately, even with Hunger back. That they just kind of mothballed both Fitz. What are we calling him? Fitzgerald, that one slate before before the game.
Fitzsimmons or whatever. Fitzmorris.
I think Nicholson's an interesting upside play, Gav. Anytime he's priced down below 5K, so I think he's interesting. I will never use Max Klesbit, so have fun with that. Ty Berry, I think, is interesting for tournaments as a shooter, but Crowell, I think, is probably the best play in this game just because we've seen his minutes come back up. He's seen 30 minutes in their non-blowout games. And Crowell at 6K, even though his role isn't what it was last year, I think is at least interesting.
Yeah, and he's getting free assists because he just hands the ball off to Tanji or Blackwell on a zoom action. They get downhill in 1 or 2 dribbles and they score and he gets an assist off it, like just from being a big body. Sure. I don't know really how high the ceiling is for Crowell in this spot. Like both teams are going to take away, opportunities inside and push everything away from the rim. So it is a tough matchup for Nicholson. It is a tough matchup for Crowell. It's a little bit more suited for someone like a Ty Berry who's going to chuck threes. But what you're getting with Ty Berry. It's, the roller coaster experience. He had like 10 DK combined in a week and a half and then rolls off like 70 DK in the next 2 games or 3 games. So yeah, it's just it's very high variance. You have to know that going in. So he's probably only tournament viable. I don't know if I'm punching Ty Berry in for a main lineup. I don't know if I got the stones to do it. So I think okay, not great spots like Tanji Blackwell, Contrarian spend ups in that. Hunter Salas, Jemiah Neal.
What about Barnheiser here? I mean, we have the value.
He's going to be low owned, and he's going to be low owned. Like,
I mean, we have him projected for 39.
He basically 4x
hurt. I haven't seen that confirmed.
He's playing
he's playing hurt.
Yeah, he fell and like hit his face on the floor. It was like nose. I think the bridge of his nose was bloodied or whatever. Like, and so he might be banged up. But I mean, he almost 4x this price, going 4-12 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3 with 10 real points. So
yeah.
He's going to be low. I think he's going to continue to be interesting, even if he's not in kind of an elite matchup in this particular spot.
Yeah, I think Barnheiser is really interesting, and we have all the 4K plays we want to double spend on the slate if we want.
Just going to pour 20K into Broom and Barnheiser and figure it out from there.
I mean, how many 7 or 8K plays have we talked about the entire show? 2?
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I think he's interesting. Context of the slate play. Before we move on, you say anything about Nicholson? Do you like him here as a matchup for? They need his body on the court for this one.
Yeah. The teams with double big lineups seem to be where he's had the path to 30 minutes. Michigan. He fouled in the Maryland game, but I think probably easily could have gotten there. If Rutgers wasn't even really playing double big, and he still played 30 minutes. So there's a little bit of foul risk. He's not going to take many shots. Wisconsin isn't really a matchup where bigs find their ceiling performances against. It's usually more the attacking guards. But yeah, I don't hate it. I sure don't love it though.
Yeah, it's just a price and minutes thing, I think. All right, let's do the last game here. K-State at Iowa State, biggest spread on the board. K-State 82nd at Ken Pom. Iowa State 5th. I don't have any news in this one. Iowa State laying 15.5, 145.5 tote here, Gav.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa State in Ames, off the Arizona, meltdown against the Kansas State team that just had, 2 comfy home wins at the Octagon, now going on the road. I mean, yeah, this is everything.
Hoping we would get them like minus 13 or something here, and I was going to hammer it.
Yeah, imagine. I mean, this could get pretty ugly, but K-State's going to try and score a lot through Coleman Hawkins and through Doug McDaniel, kind of solo actions, basically DHOs, ball screens. You just don't really do that against Iowa State. You really need a guy. I mean, Hawkins theoretically, in the same way that Darian Williams is ideally suited to unpack the Houston defense with their weak side, ball movement. Well, Coleman Hawkins can do it, but Jerome Tang just doesn't implement anything like that. So, yeah, it's uphill for K-State. I don't really see myself playing any of those guys, but I think Iowa State's got some of the contrarian spend ups, but not getting any discounts on them. So maybe except for like a Lipsy.
Fucking Lipsy. Yeah, I think Curtis Jones is really interesting here. He's the same price as Barnheiser. Obviously, a lot less peripheral upside, but without Momcilovic in there, he has just been playing massive minutes, and the upside is huge. Like, he didn't hit a shot against Arizona. I mean, probably the reason they lost, honestly. Went 1 of 11 and 0 of 8 from 3. Still got to 20 DK. Like, he has, I don't know. I think if there's anyone on the slate that can challenge Broom for top scorer, I think it's Barnheiser and Curtis Jones. And I don't think anyone else really has the upset. Well, I guess like Kalk maybe, but he took 22 shots the game before, 19, 16, 17. I think we're under projecting Curtis Jones here. Well, maybe the ceiling part. Like, I think his ceiling is 50 plus on the slate, where I don't think there are very many good plays up top, price adjusted. So we have him for 3.6x. I think he's a better player than Josh Jefferson straight up, just because of the scoring upside. Like, Iowa State could score like 85, 90 points on this team, I think.
They could hit 100. I mean, they just scored 100 on UCF. That's a better defense than K-State in Ames. They definitely could score up to and through 100.
Now, the question is, are they going to get pushed? But I'm not really sure that, like, Iowa State doesn't really run that much of a bench, especially with the guards. Like, they just kind of have him out there for the majority of the game. So I think
Demarion Watson played great in the Arizona game. Like, he's going to play more, which muddies it up a little bit for the Nate Heise's of the world.
Yeah.
But like, Watson played fantastic. I can't imagine that he just goes right back to playing a couple minutes a game.
Yeah, we've got him for 12 here. I think he's got upside from mid-teens.
Less from a DFS perspective. I don't know if he's in play for DFS. I don't think this is a showdown game. So
no, it's not.
But just more for the game overall.
Yeah, no, I think my only concern with Jones is, they're up 30 with 14 minutes left or something like that. Besides him, do you have any interest here? I know that Doug McDaniel is probably going to be at least decently popular, but I'm not going there this spot on
What
the
a
road.
dickbag he's been this year.
Yeah, God, fuck Doug McDaniel. I think it's probably Jones, Lipsy for me, and then if I was playing a bunch of teams, I'd probably have some Jefferson just because of the upside on the slate, where I don't think there is that much upside with the spends outside of Broom. Any last words here, DFS wise?
Yeah, there's no physicality on the inside for K-State. Like Jefferson could just grown man himself. He's got 50 plus upside. Yeah, I don't think nothing much else to add on that. I'm going to be avoiding. I think K-State for the most part. Even like a Housen is the 3-point shooter against a no middle. He got his opportunities against Oak State. He got 5 threes. He made all 5 of them. Still barely got to 20 DK. So I think out other than that.
Just real quick before we sign off, I want to take one last look because our guy Captain has updated Tennessee for us here. You'll see Jordan Gainey is going to be a good play. They just don't run the bench. So this is going to be a really condensed top 5 here, Gavin. So I think we see max minutes from Lanier, Milicic, and then, they'll mix in the freshman Boswell and they'll have some Dubar. But I think those guards are going to be great plays. Any last thoughts on the slate overall here? Any other bets that you want to give out for games that aren't on the slate?
Let me pull up the book. So slate context wise, I think we kind of hit on it, right? Like we weren't super high on this kind of 7K ish range. Like if you want the contrarian guys, like the Wisconsin guards, like a Jemiah Neal, like a Josh Hubbard question mark, like a Spillers question mark, like 7K range ain't great. So I think it is a go get your couple studs and then figure out the 4K range and fill in from there. Bets wise off the slate. I don't know what numbers are available. We touched Wake, Missouri, South Carolina up to 6.
Yeah.
I mean, they fought Auburn to the death. Now Broom did get injured in that game. At home in South Carolina, they fought Florida really hard. They've been scrappy as shit. They're going to get a team that they're probably going to lose the shot volume battle on with how the way A&M gets on the glass. But South Carolina is going to be bombing away from 3 with Jamari Thomas back, looking slightly healthier. I think that's the other spot that we missed off the slate.
Yeah, we also took Baylor. I think that's out to 2. Probably still okay with that there. I took Michigan at 3.5. I think that's gone. And I laid the 13.5 with Duke as well. I'm not sure what the current number is. So Florida, Wake, Eric Dixon, Auburn, Michigan, Baylor, Duke, South Carolina. All right, that wraps us up. We went over a little bit here, but good to have you back on the show, Gav. We're in February. We are only 4 weeks away from our trip out to Vegas. I'm sure you booked nothing yet. But that'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch these games today. We got the UFC going on right now. So after that, college hoops has got a pretty good day as, the sport, in the main eye of the people. So we love to see that. This should be a fun slate. It's a different slate just because of the lack of awesome spends above 7K. But for the RPS members, we'll be in Discord chatting before lock, after lock, posting lineups and news. Pretty clean news slate overall. So we'll keep an eye out on Arizona State.
So far.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
that could always change.
Zakai,
Yeah.
So something will come up. For the members, I'm not sure on afternoon or night slate. I've got some plans later, so not sure on projections for those, but we'll keep you in the loop there. If you're not a member, just go to runpuresports.com. RPS 15 gets you 15% off. We have individual sport packages. So if you just want to do college hoops, you can do that as well, or you can do the all sports. All right, Gav, we have said it all. We have to get going and do our own lineups here. Good luck in the qualifier, everyone. I think there's a $60 queue today. So we'll see you in there. Hope one of you get the seat. All right. Until next Saturday, for Gav, I'm Steve. See you guys.